My name is Ava Martinez, co-founder, and until 10 minutes ago, CEO of Lonatech, a voice synthesis startup based in Brooklyn. We'd just closed our Series B funding. We're onboarding enterprise clients and getting press from TechCrunch. And now, I was out. I didn't scream. I didn't reply. I closed the laptop. Then I sat in silence long enough to hear the heater click on. A week earlier, I'd hugged Lauren, my co-founder and best friend, goodbye at JFK. She told me to take all the time I need in Europe. Relax, she said, brushing lint off my coat. We've got this covered. Go pitch our vision. I'll hold the fort, she smiled. The kind of smile you only recognize as fake when it's already too late. We had built Lonatech together. She had the charms, the pitch deck magic. I wrote every line of code in our core product. Voice fingerprinting, synthetic model layering, edge speech compression mine. We never had secrets. Until, apparently, she had them all. I didn't tell anyone what had happened. Not my sister, not my lead engineer, not even the investor I had breakfast with that morning. Instead, I ordered a whiskey neat from room service, drank half, left the rest, and started printing every legal document I had stored on my encrypted drive. Because something told me this wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't politics or poor communication. This was an operation, and I had just been cut out of it. It started with a bar napkin and two tired women who were done taking orders. Lauren and I met during a hackathon at NYU. She was an MBA student moonlighting in product design. I was a software engineer running freelance gigs to pay rent. We both hated the way the world dismissed women's voices literally. Lonatech was born out of spite, a voice tech startup that built inclusive, bias-free audio models. We launched in her kitchen, sitting cross-legged on the floor with laptops overheating on our thighs. I handled the back-end systems, neural optimization, and training loops. Lauren was a master at framing things branding. Pitching, selling the vision. She made noise. I made things work. In the beginning, it felt like magic. We had sleepless nights, ramen-fueled brainstorms, whiteboard arguments that ended in laughter. We raised our first 100K from an angel investor who told us, "I usually don't bet on women, but you two sound pissed enough to win." Within 2 years, we had 12 employees, a polished beta product, and a list of clients from education to healthcare. TechCrunch ran a profile calling us the women fixing the voice bias problem Silicon Valley ignored. And through all of that, I trusted her. She handled most of the investor relations. I preferred to stay behind the curtain, away from the noise. I didn't need applause. I just wanted the tech to work, to matter. So when she started meeting VCs without me, I let it go. She said I intimidated them with too much detail. I believed her. When she proposed issuing herself more voting shares for negotiation leverage, I signed the agreement. She promised we'd even it out later. I didn't check the math. She was my best friend. The person who gave the eulogy at my mother's funeral. The one who brought me soup when I had COVID and couldn't get out of bed. There were signs, sure. Late-night emails I wasn't CC'd on. Meetings I found out about after the fact. But I chalked it up to stress, to growing pains, to trust. In hindsight, it wasn't that I didn't see it. It's that I chose not to. And by the time I realized I wasn't standing beside her anymore, I was already standing in her way. The first backup I made wasn't out of paranoia. It was habit. I'd always kept off-site repositories, mirrored servers with time-stamped commits. It wasn't for protection. It was how I worked. But then Lauren started locking files behind admin-only permissions. Then she reorganized our cloud infrastructure. I couldn't access staging environments without her approval. "It's just temporary," she said. Too many cooks in the kitchen. Except I was the cook. She had stopped coding after Series A. That was when I started to get quiet. I created private encryption keys, migrated copies of our core ML models to an external drive, printed the original source code registration, and notarized every update with timestamps, just in case. I opened a new checking account, not because I expected to use it, but because our company card statements had gaps. Meals she claimed to have had with angel leads were charged in cities she never mentioned visiting. I didn't confront her. I smiled during meetings, took notes, agreed to pivots I didn't fully understand. I started sleeping with my phone on airplane mode, and my passwords rotated every 48 hours. I didn't trust anyone, not even myself. The only person I shared anything with was an old mentor from MIT who now taught at Columbia. I showed him the structure of our neural clustering model, the way it had evolved. He smiled and said, "If she ever tries to cut you out, this will prove what's yours." That was all he said. That was all I needed. There's a type of silence that isn't fear. It's strategy. And as much as I wanted to believe I was wrong, That my friend wasn't the kind of person who would gut me for profit. My code told me otherwise. Because one night, I checked the commit history on our GitHub, and I saw my code, my original work listed under her username. Authorship. Changed. Timestamps. Altered. It wasn't just betrayal. It was erasure. I didn't cry. I didn't call her. I didn't even log a complaint. I logged out. Then I downloaded everything and started building a mirror product from scratch under a new name. Offline. Quiet. Lego. If she was rewriting history, I'd make sure the original never disappeared. I landed back in New York on a Wednesday. Nobody met me at the airport. That was the first red flag. The second came when my company badge wouldn't open the office door. I stood there for a full minute, badge hovering over the scanner, the green light never coming. A junior engineer I didn't recognize buzzed me in. He didn't even know who I was. Inside, my name was missing from the org chart on the lobby screen. I smiled, walked to my desk, and found it cleared. Empty drawers, my chair gone, someone else's coat hanging on the back. Ava. They said you left. Lauren wasn't in the office. She was at a closed-door board strategy session. No one had seen her in days. I sat down in a conference room and opened my laptop. Password failed. Reset denied. Account disabled. When I finally got into the back-end system through an old engineer login, I remembered from our beta days. What I saw made my throat dry up. Our bank accounts had been drained, not all at once, but in quiet. Careful transfers over the last 6 months. She had slowly funneled money from our main accounts into new entities, LLCs I didn't recognize, registered out of state. They all had names like LTX Ventures or LanaWorks Digital, just close enough to our own brand to pass a glance test. The worst part wasn't the money, it was the paperwork. Forged documents, investment memos I never saw, signatures that looked like mine almost, but with subtle, consistent errors. She hadn't just pushed me out, she'd staged it, falsified it, marketed it to the board as a necessary ethical distancing. According to an internal memo dated 2 months ago, she'd already informed investors that I would be stepping back from day-to-day operations due to personal instability. That's what she called burnout and loyalty. Instability. I leaned back in the chair, staring at my own face on a slide deck blurred out, titled Former Technical Co-Founder, Limited Involvement. Former? I was erased in present tense, but that day, something shifted. Until then, I had been documenting, preparing, waiting, hoping maybe there was some explanation. Now, I stopped waiting. This wasn't neglect. This was war. The first person I called was Eli Grant. He was the lawyer who helped us incorporate Lonatech when it was just a Delaware C Corp and a Dropbox folder. We hadn't spoken in over a year. Lauren said his firm was too slow once we got VC backing, but Eli picked up on the second ring. Ava. I've been waiting for this call. He already knew. Not the details, but the drift. Lauren had sent him a notice months earlier, terminating his services and assigning a new legal team. That new team was, conveniently, her cousin's boutique firm specializing in high-speed equity restructures. I met Eli in person the next morning. Over black coffee and a manila folder, I laid everything out, timestamps, logs, emails, contracts, GitHub trails, and the LLC network I'd mapped overnight. He took one look and said, "She didn't just oust you, she defrauded you. And if those signatures are what I think they are, she's in felony territory." That was the first moment I let myself breathe. Together, we started compiling a legal timeline. The forged IP transfer documents. The duplicate product lines registered under shadow LLCs. The Series B capital Lauren rerouted without board consent. And my original codebase, timestamped and notarized, showing authorship on our core algorithm. We brought in Maya Tran, a forensic accountant Eli trusted. She worked quiet, fast, and surgically. Within a week, she traced over $3 million in misappropriated funds split across shell companies, crypto wallets, and a personal trust in the Cayman Islands. Every breadcrumb Lauren left behind was legal dynamite. She'd built a castle on a foundation of falsified signatures and internal fraud, and she thought no one would notice. The only thing I didn't have was proof of intent, until Eli suggested, "Get her talking. Record it. She's arrogant. She'll think you've already given up." I didn't flinch, because he was right. She thought I was the builder, not the fighter. She thought quiet meant broken. But this wasn't grief. This was focus. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was building a case, like a product, with a launch date and a finish line. At first, I thought it was just Lauren, her greed, her ego, her desperation to prove she could be more than just the face of a tech company. But Maya, the forensic accountant, found something in the registry records that didn't make sense. One of the LLCs Lauren used, Aurora Grid Partners, had a co-signer, a man named Stephen Kale. It rang a bell. I dug through old pitch decks and investor notes. Stephen Kale was the same investor who showed interest in our Series A, then disappeared after we declined his offer. Eli remembered him too. SEC sanctions. 2018. Pump and dump fraud using a crypto startup in Austin. Why was Lauren in business with a blacklisted investor? We followed the trail. It didn't stop at Stephen. Aurora Grid was tied to a network of shadow companies, all with names that sounded like consultancy firms. Lighthouse Metrics, Rever Solutions, Bluestecca Holdings. Each one filed for incorporation within weeks of each other, across multiple states with different registered agents. But the IP addresses used in the filing process, same location, Midtown Manhattan. Maya flagged a disturbing pattern. Each company had been involved in at least one civil lawsuit related to IP theft or false representation, and all had settled quietly, with sealed terms. Lauren wasn't just cutting me out. She was replicating a playbook. She'd taken our product, folded it into this web of entities, and prepped it for rebrand just in time for a new funding round from Kale's offshore partners. The scam was clean. Strip the original brand. Reassign the tech IP through consultancy transitions. Claim the founder stepped back for health reasons. Go public under a new name. And it had worked before. I wasn't the first engineer they tried to erase. I was just the one who noticed in time. We found 2 other victims, a black female developer from Chicago and a Korean-American founder from Seattle. Both had built early-stage tech. Both had been pushed out by co-founders connected to Kyle's circle, and both had settlements with strict NDAs. I reached out anyway. Only one replied. She said, "If you're going after them, finish it." I couldn't. That was all the permission I needed. This wasn't just about me anymore. It never had been. This was a machine, and I had every gear mapped out. I invited Lauren to a private Zoom call on a Wednesday evening. The subject line read, "Let's make this clean. Exit terms discussion." She replied in under 5 minutes. "Glad you've come around. Let's keep it civil." That was her mistake. What she didn't know was that the meeting invite was embedded with legal oversight. The session was being recorded and certified by a digital notary platform. Eli and Maya were both silent observers on the line, muted, cameras off, logged in under aliases. Every second of the conversation would be time-stamped, logged, and admissible in court. She showed up on camera like nothing had happened. Silk blouse, calm smile, a glass of white wine in hand. "Ava," she said. "I'm glad you're being reasonable. This doesn't have to get messy." I nodded. Let her talk. She walked me through her offer. A small buyout to relinquish all claims to the company. No public statements. Mutual NDA. A quick settlement for everyone's peace of mind. Then she leaned back, just a bit too relaxed, and said, "I know this feels harsh, but I had to act. Investors were nervous. You were unpredictable. I saved the company." I tilted my head. "By erasing me." She smiled like I'd missed the point. "You were a liability. That launch demo. You froze in front of the cameras. The board was scared. So was I. That demo was during the week my father died. She knew that. She also knew I didn't want it canceled because we couldn't afford the delay. You didn't save the company," I said. "You sold it to frauds." The smile twitched. Just slightly. Big words. "Ava, careful what you accuse me of." "I don't have to accuse you," I said. "You're doing it yourself." She didn't realize she'd just admitted to motive, misrepresentation, and false statements about my performance on a legally monitored line. I ended the call politely. "I'll have my attorney contact yours." Click. The recording was sealed, exported, and filed within the hour. 2 days later, we submitted a full case brief to the state attorney general's office.
By Friday.
Lauren's accounts were frozen. By Monday. Subpoenas were issued to every company linked to Aurora Grid and Kale's portfolio. She called me once, no voicemail. She didn't call again. This wasn't revenge. This was a system check. And the system just logged her out. The legal machine didn't move fast. But when it moved, it was relentless. Within weeks, subpoenas became charges. Fraud, forgery, misappropriation of funds, identity falsification, intellectual property theft. Lauren tried to play the misunderstanding card. She claimed she acted under pressure, that I wasn't well, that everything was meant to protect the company from internal chaos. But the receipts were ironclad. Maya's financial trail, Eli's time-stamped evidence, The Zoom recording where Lauren calmly admitted I was a liability, and she had to take control. There was no defense for that. Only delay. Cale vanished from U.S. jurisdiction 3 days after his name was listed in the state filings. His companies were frozen. The SEC reopened an older investigation. 2 journalists reached out to me asking for interviews. I said no. This wasn't for headlines. The court ruled in my favor within 3 months. All falsified agreements were voided. My ownership stake was reinstated. Lauren was permanently barred from holding executive office in any registered U.S. company for 5 years. A portion of the stolen funds, $1 million, was recovered and returned. But I didn't reclaim the company. I didn't want it anymore. I gave up my board seat, transferred my remaining equity to a STEM education nonprofit, declined the option to rename the product or continue as co-founder emerita. Let her keep the narrative. If she needed it, I had what mattered: the truth, the proof, and my peace. She tried just once to apologize. A formal letter through her lawyer. It read, "I regret how things unfolded. We were under immense pressure. I hope one day you'll understand that I only did what I thought was necessary." I never responded. Because here's the thing about apologies that arrive after subpoenas. They aren't healing. They're strategy. She didn't get to close the loop. She didn't get to reframe what happened. This wasn't a fallout. It was theft. Calculated. Signed. Executed. And I had treated it like code. Debugged it. Patched it. Locked it out of my system. The damage was real. But the fix was mine. I didn't win with rage. I won with silence. Paper. And proof. That was always the difference between us. She played the crowd. I built the platform. I moved to Montana 6 weeks after the court ruling. No farewell tour. No big post on LinkedIn. Just a quiet exit flight and a one-way rental car waiting for me at Glacier Park International. The cabin was small. 2 bedrooms. Pine walls. A wood-burning stove that cracked and popped all night like it was telling stories in its sleep. I bought it outright with the money Lauren had tried to hide offshore. I didn't tell many people where I went. Just my sister. I needed space not to escape, but to recalibrate. Tech had always been my language, but now I used it differently. I started teaching at the local high school twice a week intro to coding. Web dev. Basic Python. Half the kids had never touched a command line before. That made it pure. They didn't care about fundraising rounds or product launches or the Valley's obsession with disruption. They just wanted to know how to make something move on a screen, how to solve a puzzle, how to understand something invisible. I began volunteering at a local nonprofit for rural girls in STEM, helped them build their first Arduino-powered greenhouse sensor. One girl cried when it lit up green, healthy soil. She said, "I didn't think I was smart enough for this." I told her the truth. Neither did I. Until I stopped believing other people's voices more than my own. I wasn't trying to reinvent myself. I was just living, cooking, walking, reading actual paper books, sitting in silence without needing to fill it. I planted herbs in recycled cans on my windowsill. I adopted an old golden retriever named Jasper. I gave away my last pair of heels to the librarian. There were no press releases. No look at me now Instagram posts. My healing didn't need an audience. Some days, I still wake up thinking about that office in Brooklyn. The whiteboard. The beta build. Lauren's laugh before things fractured. But I don't carry it like a wound. More like a scar faded, but shaped like something I survived. Justice didn't fix everything. It never does. But out here, in the quiet, I stopped expecting it to. I didn't come here to hide. I came here to be free. And for the first time in years, I am... The email came on a Sunday morning. Simple subject line. "Thank you. You changed how I see myself." It was from Jenna, one of the girls from the summer coding camp I volunteered with. She'd been quiet sharp. Observant. The kind of student who always sat in the back but never missed a line of code. In her message, she wrote, "I didn't think people like me could belong in tech, but you made it feel possible. Not flashy, just real. I'm applying to MIT. I put your name in my essay." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I smiled. It wasn't the prestige that hit me. It was the phrasing, not flashy, just real. That's how I knew the version of me she met was the version I was meant to become. Sometimes, people ask me if I miss it. The startup world, the momentum, the spotlight. What I miss is harder to name. It's not the stage, it's the building, the making, the feeling that something small, made with your own hands, could grow into something meaningful. But here's the thing they don't tell you. You don't have to scale something for it to matter. Some days now, I fix broken printers at the library. Other days, I help a neighbor set up an email account or debug a website for her quilting side business. It's not disruptive. It's not revolutionary, but it's honest. And it's mine. Last week, the state attorney's office closed the case against Lauren. She took a plea deal probation, fines, permanent restriction from handling venture capital, no prison, no headlines. That used to bother me. Now, it doesn't, because justice, when done right, doesn't have to scream. It can whisper. It can rest. It can rebuild. People who've heard the story still ask me, why didn't you go public? Why didn't you torch her online? You had every right. They don't understand. I didn't want revenge. I wanted clarity. She took something from me, but I took something back. Not the company. Not the title. Myself. That's the part she couldn't reach. That's the version that stayed standing. And if there's a lesson in any of this, it's probably this. Let them think they broke you, then rebuild somewhere they'll never find.